One of the most fun archetypes that I like playing in games is the evasion tank archetype. This is the character that takes attacks but doesn't take damage, aka a tank that evades. Snee actually fits pretty well into this, and also fits into a more self-sustainable attacker role. However, I don't really think that this role works very well in Blasters. Let me explain. Snee is a A-rank fighter yokai of the Brave tribe. He has a base HP stat of 405, a base strength stat of 217, a base spirit stat of 195, a base defense stat of 118, and is of the normal speed tier. His skill is Vampiric. This allows him to absorb 10% of the damage he deals as HP. This is kind of what I think is wrong with Snee. You see, 10% damage healing kind of sounds pretty good. However, that's when you realize that even if you were to do, like, I don't know, 800 damage, that's only 80 HP. And as you can see, I have well over 500 HP. So I would have to attack quite a few times. Even just 5 times would only get 400 HP. And Snee is not doing 800 damage, I will tell you that. So it sounds like a good skill, but it doesn't work too well unless you're doing big damage. And since this is Snee's skill, he doesn't really have anything else to do big damage. However, you don't really care about the skill. The skill is just kind of like an extra thing. You would want it to be better, but this is kind of what makes Snee special. However, his moves also are pretty special. Although I should probably talk about triple attack first. I mean, it's, Shogunyan? His triple attack? It's just that. So yeah, anyways. His first move is Fallback Attack. This is a 70 base power move with a 4-second cooldown and gives 16 soul meter when you attack. And then, it's a dodge move. It's pretty cool. It's a very useful move to have, and is another thing that helps Snee be this more evasion tank archetype. His second notable move is Counter. This is a 100 base power move with a 6-second cooldown and gives 40 soul meter when hits. So basically, the way this works, you press the button and then a second later, you'll enter this guard state. And if the enemy hits you within a certain time frame, I think it's like another second or something, then you'll hit the attack for 100 base power. This and Fallback Attack allows Snee to be a pretty defensive character that doesn't actually take any sort of damage, allowing him to be pretty invulnerable considering he doesn't have an actual dodge move. His third move is Siphon. Uncharged, it has 50 base power, although charged it has 160, although it might be 200 because the spreadsheet says it has 40 base power, but as you can see it says 50 right there. It has a 2.5 second cooldown when uncharged, but only a 2-second cooldown when charged. It gives 12 soul meter when uncharged and 30 soul meter when charged, and it heals you when you attack. And considering Snee actually has a weirdly high special stat, this would be a useful move if he didn't already have his other 2 moves that I think are just better. And then finally we have Offensive Stance. This increases your attack by 30% for 15 seconds and has a 25-second cooldown. This is not really that good for Snee in my opinion. Because Snee only has Fallback Attack and Counter, and no sort of dodge move, and is just kind of average speed, he's really not that he can't move very much if you take away one of his, defensive options. So having an offensive stance just doesn't really fit well. His ultimate move is Demonic Slash, a 480 base power move, 1 hit, physical, and is a just giant sweep of his sword. It's alright. I mean, it's his ultimate. And when you hit this move, it's very likely going to be just a full heal, because it has so much base power that, it kind of works out pretty well. For equipment, I am running the Vampiric Fangs, and for the soul, I'm running the Soul Terrier Soul. I'll explain in a minute. So the Vampiric Fangs give an additional 10% of the damage dealt as HP. So now if I'm doing 300 damage, instead of healing only 30 HP, I'm healing 60 HP, which is much better, and also gives me a nice attack buff, HP buff, and defense buff. However, for the second setup I'm using, I will also be using the Oni Smasher Sky, because for the rest of the characters, I don't have them equipped here, but in the showcases, I have Whisper Souls, as well as Whisper himself, giving me an additional 40% crit rate, meaning that I am more likely to do more damage and can heal more. And then we have Katsu-chan and Gabby here for defense buffing, so that way in case I do mess up, or maybe my cooldowns just don't work, you can, get away pretty safely. You can also try the Cicada Soul if you wanted to get more move meter charge. However, because you have to keep attacking the enemy, and Snee kind of wants to make sure that he's not dying, it kind of limits the bosses that Snee is already pretty limited against. Like, I wanted to try to fight Captain Thunder, but honestly, Captain Thunder just shuts down Snee. Like, half his attacks, Snee doesn't even, like, work well against, and then he just moves around so much, I don't even think it's worth it. And then we have Whisper here with the Invocation Bauble, which allows negative in spirits to last 20% longer, and we give him big defense drop so that way I deal just a little bit more damage and can heal a little bit more. So overall, Snee he's good. Obviously, he's pretty good. However, he's kind of just a little bit better than average, but nothing really too special. But that doesn't mean that he can't get the job done, so why don't we just see how good Snee can really be? So here we have Ultra Zazel. Now I'm going to go ahead and warn you, this is a really long fight. This fight's like 10 minutes, because Snee is not really the sort of character that you don't solely rely on him. He's really just he's really good for like online play where you have 3 other damage dealers. He's really good at not dying, but he's not very good at dealing damage. As you can see, I've just taken like 5 attacks, but I haven't taken a single hit of damage yet. So it's very convenient to play a Snee in settings where you just want to not take damage. But like, you're not quite confident in your Shogunyan dodges, Snee is actually pretty good for that. However, as the main focus of the team, the reason that I have the Soul Terrier Soul and all this crit stuff is just so that way we're kind of going a little bit faster. Because as you can see, his damage, while Zazel does have a really high defense stat, or high damage reduction, whatever this is, probably defense, but we're not really doing that much damage. I say not that much, it's more so just, like, that 2,100 damage on the Sultimate right there is mainly because of the crit, and the 75% crit damage. That would be, like, 1,000, if not, probably, I don't know. But Snee doesn't really have anything to just deal tons of damage. His triple attack, while good, he really needs to be making sure he times counter attack, because counter is actually really picky with when it wants to work. And fallback attack is just, I mean, it's a super busted move, but you can't just spam it because it has too long of a cooldown. It's not like dodge. So you have to kind of be careful with Snee. He wants to be dealing damage, but he also doesn't have the kit to be dealing damage. He wants to be, constantly dodging attacks, but the cooldowns don't really work like that, so you would think you would want to bring the Cicada Soul, but because you need to be dodging, you can't really keep up a combo super well. But, still. So there we go, we did 1,700 damage, so it actually probably would have been a little bit less if I didn't have the Soul Terrier Soul, so yeah, maybe a little bit less than 1,000. But hey, his ultimate is kind of doing its job. So this first part is pretty easy. I can just constantly use counter to turn off moves like the projectile, and then I can use fallback attack to make sure that I'm just not taking damage, and my teammates can use their healing to heal each other. Snee's really good if your allies are like, I don't know, Arachnevals or something, because then he's able to just keep himself up, and he's rarely going to get hit. So even though he's not healing a ton, because he gets hit so rarely, by the time he gets hit again, he's probably already healed up quite a ton of stuff. And remember, this is with Vampiric Fangs. If you have, like, Oni Smasher Sky, you'd probably heal more, which is funny, because even though you have only half the healing per hit, you deal so much damage with the crit, you probably just heal more. So counter doesn't really work against Ultra Zazelmare, because when he does his, Mystery Leap, or whatever it's called, the Zazel Mystery Leap, he kind of just runs through the counter, and the counter doesn't hit fast enough. So, Snee, like, Cicada Soul would be really good for the first phase, but it would be pretty bad for this phase. And, like, Wisp Cream, he really just sits there a long time, but he doesn't attack fast enough for you to warrant bringing the Cicada Soul, so it's, like, very specific. Like, you would think, like, Shogun King maybe, but no, when he goes purple, that's, really when I need to be able to just dodge all the time, but I probably won't have it because, the souls, I don't think the souls will move quite fast enough. If you're, like, task level, you could probably do it, but I don't think so otherwise. Snee would actually be pretty usable for the claws and the swirls, you know, them, the dog and the cat, they'd be pretty good. It's just, I didn't do it because, you know, the computer, they can't really handle it. And I'm not going to, like, sit there and try to solo it with Snee. So, I mean, Sneak would be pretty good for them. Hina's all bot fights are just kind of easy. You can kind of do whatever with them. Robunyan, he'd probably, honestly, Snee would be pretty good against Robunyan. His Slash would be able to take care of the robots, little Robunyans pretty easily. Counter would be able to handle the punch. Fallback attack would let you get out of the way pretty easily. So, you know, there's like a few bosses he'd be good against, but everyone else, when he's not good, he's really just not good. But when he's good, he's quite solid. The main thing that holds him back is just comparatively to like the top tier attackers like Emperor Sapion, Shogunyan, even like Soul Terrier, Komashura, Stick Mark 6. Snee's kind of just lacking in the damage department, and you don't, once you get to like high level gameplay, you don't really need to be healing because it's rare that you even get hit. And even if you do rarely get hit and need healing, if you're not playing with other people, you can just bring like Gabby and Katsuchan, and then their defense and their healing will be enough to make up for the fact that you aren't, you know, perfect. So it's kind of, Snee's like trying to fulfill this role that in the base game would be good, but I don't think Snee's quite like this in the base game. And even then, you can usually just kill bosses before a boss can kill you. There's very specific circumstances where you can't. Like, he might be good against Mass Mutterer, but maybe not. Because, you know, those kicks, like, Snee doesn't really have a cooldown to be dealing with that. It's really just a cooldown thing. Fallback attack into counter is good, and then you can maybe get another fallback attack, but then what do you do after that? Your counter has a really long cooldown. It's a real dependent thing. It takes a lot of skill in order to learn how Snee works. I don't have that skill, but, you know. I'm surprised I've actually talked for this long. He's a little over halfway dead. Now, I will go ahead and spoil. I mess up the orbs because I get greedy. And by greedy, I mean I try to be all casual about it. Try to be like, oh, it's all cool. You know, I can just stand still and press A, and then I miss at the last second. So, I mean, it's whatever. Like, just shows that, you know, we don't really need... like, I pressed it like maybe a couple frames too late. We don't really need to be able to stun Ultra Zazelmare. Because, you know, it's not really that bad. But still, like, I missed here. And then, you know, just didn't last long enough. Even if I did hit it there perfectly, it wouldn't have been able to hit. So, it's kind of whatever. So we're just going to have to run around, do this. I haven't really commentated the fight because it's really just anytime something happens, fallback attack or dodge. Pretty good. I haven't used my getaway plushes yet. I don't think I do. And like, there you go. I just dodge it. Oh, is there one coming? Well, then we'll counter. And then, oh wait, I have my fallback attack ready again. You know, it's really just that simple. I keep hitting my mic. I wonder if I can pick it up. For some reason, the editing program I use is like very sensitive with the mic. I mean, it is because I do have like filters on like OBS. So noise stuff, it doesn't really pick up very well, but still. So there we go. We get a big 1200 on the VAT, but sadly Whisper's dead now, so it is actually going to take quite a decent bit longer, because when Whisper dies, sadly our critical rate does drop down, and it's not like Gabby and Katsuchan's skill where it persists through their death. So yeah, we are just gonna have to kind of suck it up and deal with missing half the additional crit rate that I wanted. So yeah, he's not, it's kind of good. Like, it's good, but Snee just doesn't really do the damage. Because, like, even there, like, you know, I would have been able to heal myself up, but, like, the computers are kind of doing it for me. And here we go to big demonic slash, but I missed, because I got turned somehow. But as you can see, we can kind of just heal back up because he is not hitting me that fast. But as you can see, counter doesn't really do it. It really just provides invincibility, which I don't even need, because even if he does like 3 mystery Zazel leaps, it doesn't hurt enough to kill me. So yeah, that's just the kind of the power of Katsu-chan, Gabby, and then the gold lunar shield. So Snee, like, again, he's kind of like made for mid game level, I would say. Not really so much like optimized play, but like when you're just starting out, you can get a Snee because like Chanson is better than Snee easily. But that's only with Oni Smasher Sky and Swoltaria. So if you don't have that and you just have like run of the mill equipment, Snee's not really too dependent on equipment. It's really just skill. So Snee's actually pretty good to get you good at the game. So that's kind of what he's good for, in all honesty. Not really so much optimized play, but really to get you like to dip your toes into the game. Snee actually does pretty good for that, in all honesty. So now we have Ultra Kabuking, and instead of healers, I have Whispers, and I now have the Oni Smasher Sky. I have Josper here just because it's funnier to have 2 Whispers and a Josper rather than just 3 Whispers, but it would be better to have 3 Whispers because they all could have defense drop. The equipment on the Whispers really doesn't matter. I mean, one of them has the Invocation Soul, Invocation Bauble, whatever it is, but it doesn't really matter. Now, I died twice and then a third time here, but, you know, we still do so much damage that it doesn't even matter that I keep dying because, you know, I just get greedy. This fight is kind of a pain because the camera's so zoomed in, you can't really, like, get around anything that happens. And so you have, like, got all this noise and all this mess that you can't see. Like, all these little standing ovation. Is it standing ovation or standing oblivion? Yeah, it's standing ovation. A standing oblivion would be so, would actually sound like a cool name. But yeah, he jumps out of the way and I run into an explosion, like that's fair. And then I get hit again by the stomp. So here I switch to Josper, do the sickest dodge on all 3 umbrellas that you've ever seen in your life. And then I switch and, you know, start rezzing myself because that's what I need to do. And the fight is almost over, believe it or not. So we're going to switch to Snee, get a couple hits in, go get this little buff right here. One of the Whispers is going to debuff, and then we're going to Ultimate, and that's the fight. Big, almost damage cap on Snee. So, yeah, Snee definitely has the potential to hit these numbers, but then again, this setup with, like, any attacker is really freaking good. So, Snee's not too special for this, but, you know, again, he gets the job done. So Snee is an interesting case since he's, you know, he wants to heal himself. However, he doesn't really have anything else besides his skill, and his skill would kind of be better if it was something else. And he doesn't have anything besides, you know, fallback, attack, and counter, which are pretty good. However, when you start getting to the really good attacker characters like Shogunyan, who's keeping up combo, you have Tanbo, who has this really good crit chance skill. You have Chanson, who also has this crit chance skill. You even have characters like Arachneval, Beetle, Beetler, who get like insane attack buffs when they're at low HP. Snee just doesn't really have anything like that. He's more of a defensive character. However, because of the nature of his, you know, somewhat low 10% damage dealt being turned to HP, he wants to be able to do tons of damage. However, a lot of equipment like Oni Smasher Sky will just lower your HP and you're more likely to be one-shot. So he's trying to fit in a role that kind of gets pushed back by the nature of this game, but he is still a very good character and is actually a pretty usable option for anybody who doesn't have maxed out equipment because Snee himself doesn't really change very much. It's really just how much damage he does, which is kind of different compared to characters like Tanbo, who really depend on their, you know, really good equipment. So Snee is pretty good for mid-level players, and then once you get higher level characters, he doesn't fall off very hard, meaning he's actually pretty usable. So yeah, Snee is pretty cool. Maybe one change I could, you know, I think would actually be pretty good, is if you could get triple attack to heal, get 10% of its damage converted to HP, I think that would actually be really good for him. So yeah, other than that, Snee's pretty usable. I will say, very... It's interesting to play as him compared to like Shogunyan or something. However, I think because dodge is just such a good move and Snee doesn't have that and he only has fallback, attack, and counter, he kind of falls off a little bit in terms of ease of use, but he's still not bad at all. So anyways, I hope you have enjoyed, hope you learned something about Snee. because honestly, he's pretty interesting. And, yeah, that's kind of it. Bye.